Well, whiskey fans, welcome to the Whiskey Trail. Here we're going to be discussing who invented whiskey. Well, that's a simple answer, and it was the Irish who invented whiskey. Of course, I would say that I am Irish. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the research I've done. So, one thing the Irish, we do try to claim a lot, but one thing we can't claim is inventing alcohol. That was done in somewhere around the Middle East, in maybe Arabia, in the middle, like the 500-600 AD kind of era. And Irish monks started traveling across Europe, and they were looking for new inventions, and they came across this idea that the Arabs had invented, which was looking for the essence of something. So they saw these Arab scholars with a little pot, and they had a fire underneath, and they were basically boiling up the contents. Now, the Arabs were trying to create perfume, and of course, Irish monks being what they were, they took this idea home, and at the time they were making a type of beer. So, of course, in Ireland, what do? Instead of putting the perfumes or whatever the ingredients around, you throw some beer into it and you see what happens. So the Irish monks put their beer into this little pot still, started to heat it up with a little bit of a fire, and then that fire rose up and they caught the essence of what came out of that. So what they were looking for was a true spirit of that beer. So they were actually the first people to start distilling alcohol. How do we know this? Well, we have to look back into history. There's a few different records. In the 11th or 12th century, there's records of a liquid that they refer to as aqua vitae, or in Irish or in Gaelic, Uisce Beatha. Now, if Uisce Beatha sounds a little bit like whiskey, that's the origins of the word whiskey. Uisce. Whiskey just evolved into an anglicised name, and the direct translation of aqua vitae or Uisce Beatha is the water of life. They were looking for something that could cure all ailments. They weren't looking for a really strong alcohol to get you drunk. That was just a byproduct of what came about. Here I have a little whiskey poured, which I'll discuss later on. We've 3 different types of alcohol here in front of me. And that's what they were discovering when they were getting their little pot stills. What we refer to as a copper pot still would have been a metal still, boiling up all sorts of liquids to see what came out and finding the true spirit of it. So back to our question, who invented whiskey? Well, the Scots claim they invented whiskey. Of course they do. In the year 1494, there's a written record of a friar, John Core, and he had ordered 500 bottles or 500 containers of whiskey or aqua vitae for a local king. Now, they had the oldest record for many, many years, but a few different sources are coming to light now. In almost prehistoric times, they have found on the banks of the River Liffey, which is the main river in Dublin, they have found old reindeer skins that were stretched, and what they thought was a Celtic druid was scratching onto them, and he was scratching onto the words foul tasting liquid. I boiled it up in my pot and caught the contents that was steaming off. Rough translations, very, very loose. Not sure if I fully believe that whole story. You can read about it online, and we will have a blog going up on our website on the Whiskey Trail. So jump onto our website next week, that will be live, and check it out, see what you think. Maybe put in your comments if you believe that one. A way more solid one for that is in Clonmacnoise, which is on the banks of the River Shannon. There was a settlement. It was a settlement of monks, and it was a group of different churches and towers. It was a defensive position, and they were scholars all living in one community. And there is a record of a chieftain actually dying in around Christmas time when he drank too much aqua vitae. Now, that dates back to 1405, nearly 90 years before the Scots record. So we have 2 records working there. So I'm gonna take one of them as truth and say that we did invent alcohol, or sorry, whiskey. There we go, trying to claim alcohol again. Now, when I'm mentioning whiskey, aqua vitae wasn't technically whiskey as the current rules in Ireland apply, that you must age it for 3 years in barrels. They were probably storing it in whatever they could find. And what they were doing actually at the time was distilling an alcohol a little bit like this. This is a bottle that showed up at a party. One time a friend of mine brought it along, and the only clue to what it is Mountain Dew or Mount Dew. This I have had a sip of it before, but is moonshine by any other word, or what we call it in Ireland is pochine. Now, pochine is a Irish term or Gaelic term for small pot. So the clue is in the name of what this is. So actually, if you just pour out a little drop of this, it is quite potent. This, to me, I've tasted many pochines over the years, is not a very strong one. It's clear, of course, so it has not been in wood. It's come off a still and been bottled in. It looks like a soda or I don't know, some sort of mixer for a drink. And straight away on the nose of this, it's floral. It's quite sweet and floral and heathery. It's really nice, actually. And I have a sip of that. But you're waiting for alcohol burn, and there's nothing. It's just smooth. It is delicious. So if you're looking back in time and you're trying to figure out what Irish whiskey or Ishka Baha was, more than likely it's something like this. Taking it out, putting it in a barrel. Now, I'm going to be doing more reviews on this site. We're going to maybe look at something coming out of West Cork in the southwest of Ireland, down near where Clonmacnoise was. And these guys, the guys in West Cork Distillers, have made a bog oak charred cask. So we didn't have coal in Ireland, or well, not a lot of it if we did. And what they were doing is taking turf or sod, and they were digging it out of the ground, drying it out in heaps at the side of the road or at the side of the field, and they were setting that on fire, and that was their source of fuel. So this whiskey has been charred in bog oak casks, so the flavour of that should be there. And the reason I kind of love this, and I mention it, is this is echoing back to the past. This is something that if you were to go back to maybe the era of Clonmacnoise or further on in history, you would find them using the local peat, the local fuel, to either char barrels or dry their malt. So if they were taking in corn or barley, they would have been getting it to germinate and drying it out, and they would have been using the local fuel source. So I know most people think Scotch and they think smoky whiskies. I'm pretty sure the Irish did as well. This is a really good example of something like that. I know in Etchenville they've got smoked barrels as well, and they're using some smoked peat. And Connemara is one of the most famous. This is a 12-year-old whiskey, and it's made in Kilbeggan, which is one of the oldest distilleries in the world. So we will be reviewing that later on the site. So that's it. Truth be told, the Irish did invent whiskey. I hope you enjoyed the first of our podcast. It's World Whiskey Day. No better day to start sending out our videos. Join me for a drink. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Do you believe the Irish invented whiskey? Are you from Scotland and you're going to fight me to the death? Please like and share it, subscribe, and if you're looking to follow us on Instagram, we are giving away a few bottles this weekend to celebrate World Whiskey Day. So until we meet again, sláinte.